Hey guys, it's Peter and welcome to my channel, Peter Likes Books. And today we are going to continue reading my book, The Before Now and After Then. We have read the introduction and chapters 1 through 5 so far. So today we are going to start with chapter 6 and read chapter 6 and 7. I took yesterday off because it started getting late in the day. And I was just like, you know what, I will just get back to this tomorrow. So I apologize for not having made a video yesterday. I know people were waiting breathlessly for me to read more from my book. So anyway, okay, let's get into this. Are you guys ready? Chapter 6. The summer when we were 12, my mom, Sam, and I stayed with Uncle Alex for the entire month of June in a house he was renting in St. Bart's. Every morning, the four of us would walk down to this little makeshift bakery on the pier and get breakfast. I became obsessed with their delicate lemon poppy seed muffins topped with fresh raspberry jam. I would order 4 with a hot chocolate and eat them while I dangled my feet from the end of the pier, feeding crumbs to the brightly colored parrotfish swimming below my feet. Ever since that summer, whenever Mom knew I was sad or having a hard day, those little muffins would show up in our kitchen. After I got ready for school, I walked downstairs and found a plate of 4 tiny poppy seed muffins and a heaping mug of hot chocolate waiting for me on the kitchen island. The night before, I had just assumed Mom had gone to bed at the same time I had, but she must have left during the storm to go to the grocery store to buy the muffins from the bakery. Mom's laptop sat next to the sink, tuned to Pandora, and she hummed some old Bob Dylan song while she washed the dishes. She must have heard me come in, because without turning around, she asked, "Still mad?" I sat down on the island and gently pulled back the paper wrapper from my first muffin before smearing the top with a heavy layer of jam. I guess not. Mom turned off the water and turned around, putting her hands on the island. "We were just doing what we thought best," she sighed. "We just want you to feel like you can talk about it." "What's it, Sam or the gay stuff?" "The gay stuff?" Mom replied, slightly shocked. "I don't know what you mean by that." She looked at me with sadness in her eyes while I stuffed the entire muffin into my mouth. It was too early to talk about it. "If by the gay stuff you mean the fact that you are gay, then yes, the gay stuff." I started layering another muffin with jam. "I don't feel like I need to talk about it. It doesn't really bother me." The funny thing about this was that it was true. I didn't really have a problem with being gay. I didn't hate myself for it, and I didn't believe I was going to be sentenced to forever damnation in hell. I only had a problem with my sexuality when people like Pat Jones made it an issue. Those were the only times I wished I wasn't gay, and were probably the things I needed to talk about and learn how to handle. And if you want me to talk about being gay, why did you send me to Neil? He's about the straightest therapist you could have sent me to. Mom smirked. "Neil and I have known each other for a very long time. I trust him. I thought you would think he was a nice guy." She paused, taking a cigarette out of her purse. "I actually thought you would think he was cool." "He is cool, I guess," I said, swallowing the rest of my muffin. "I'll keep going to him if it makes you and Dad happy, but let me talk to him about what I want to talk about, okay?" "Deal," she agreed, lifting the cigarette to her lips. It lingered there for a second, and then she put it back into the pack. "I shouldn't smoke so much," she said, grabbing her purse and keys before walking to the garage. "I think we better go or we're going to be late." I decided to leave the final 2 muffins for an afternoon snack just in case I had another bad day, and slung my backpack over my shoulder, following her to the car. Outside, the weather was beautiful. Even though it had stormed the night before, the rain hadn't taken away the humidity, and instead of feeling like early fall, it felt like early summer. The sun shone brightly through the window, making the soft blonde hairs on my legs reflect like gold. I always wished I had hairier legs, which to me was a sign of masculinity. Although my legs were naturally somewhat muscular, they were graced with only a dusting of hair. In fact, my whole body lacked an overabundance of body hair, which made me notice it even more on other guys. On the way to school, Mom turned off the radio and said she was trying to enjoy silence more often, which couldn't have been farther from the truth, as she lapsed into a sequence of questions about my first day of school. I told her about Cher and lunch and how we had texted the night before. Even though I told her about class with Mrs. Sconce, I chose to not tell her about Rusty, and especially about Pat Jones. I was close with both of my parents, but there were certain things I needed to keep to myself. I had never wanted my parents to know about my being teased because I knew it would hurt them more than it hurt me. One of my biggest fears had always been that my mom would overhear someone call me a faggot and then realize what I went through every day. I could handle it, but I didn't think she could. For some reason, it was just as hard to tell my parents about the good things as it was the bad things because they felt so personal. I might never even see or talk to Rusty again, and when I thought about him, it made me so happy, yet anxious, that I definitely wanted to keep that to myself. I was almost afraid that if I talked about it and made it real in my head, it would jinx it and ruin any chance I might have, which was ridiculous because I knew I didn't have any chance anyway. Mom let me off in front of the same brick building wall, same brick wall, and told me she'd pick me up right after school. And Alex is flying in tonight, she said, excitedly as I slammed the door, giving her an over-exaggerated thumbs up. She started laughing, returning the gesture as she drove away. After Sam died, I didn't return to school for the rest of the year. All of my assignments were sent to our house, and they let me finish my junior year being homeschooled. It was easy to look up information and use my notes for tests, so I ended the year with pretty good grades. Before that, Sam had always helped me with my homework. Besides being more athletic than me, he had also been smarter than me. I had thought for years that some secret talent of mine would emerge, which Sam didn't have, but it appeared that I was the lesser twin because I was still waiting for that talent to appear. I grew accustomed to looking up test answers on the internet and having my notes in front of me for assignments. I had forgotten how difficult real school actually was. While most of the other students were taking advanced placement classes, physics and statistics, I was taking botany and geometry, both of which I could tell were going to be a total struggle. The reality was that I just wasn't very smart. The only subject I enjoyed in school is English because I love to read, but when I looked at my English syllabus, I was saddened to find I had already read most of the books listed. Our school schedules were split over 2 days, which they called Gold and Blue Days, referring to the school colors. Since it was a blue day, I didn't have any classes with Cher. I looked everywhere in the hallways for her and Rusty, but didn't find either of them. Ironically, Pat seemed to be in almost all of my classes, and his locker was almost directly across from mine. I avoided him most of the day, quickly walking past him in the hallway without him noticing several times. Thankfully, he never seemed to notice me, already having set targets for his attacks that were more important. Before lunch, I headed towards my locker and tried to figure out what I was going to do about eating lunch by myself without Cher. All of a sudden, I heard her yelling from behind me. "Beautiful boy, oh, beautiful boy," she cooed, running up and grabbing me from behind. "I missed you so much." I started laughing and turned around. "You missed me?" "Yes, and I've decided something," she said, putting her hands on her hips while she slowed down her breathing. I'm not a runner." "That's what you've decided?" "No, you asshole. I've decided we're going to play a game." "Do you want to play a game?" she asked. "Sure," I said, having no idea what she had in mind. "Okay, we're going to play this game where we act like we've known each other forever and we've always been friends. That way, you can quit talking to me like we just met and you can start talking to me like we've been best friends forever." I looked down at the ground, realizing I had been best friends for years. I looked down at the ground, realizing I had been found out. My awkwardness was more obvious than I had realized. Truthfully, I had no idea how to be someone's friend. I had been Sam's friend, but that was different. "Cheer up, dude. I'll help you. I know you have no idea how to talk to people, but that's like my favorite thing, so I'll help you become a pro." She smiled and kissed my cheek. I could smell the distinguishable scent of clove cigarettes wafting through her hair. "Okay," I smiled. I needed to put my backpack in my locker, so I turned to walk away. "Hurry up. I'm starving for some pizza today." She followed right along next to me. I started turning the lock when I noticed something wedged between the edges by the knob. As I slowly pulled out the mysterious object, I realized it was a piece of blackjack gum. My cheeks spread with warmth as I started to blush, and a smile crept over my lips. I pressed it into my palm, hiding my secret prize. He had found me. I quickly looked around, but didn't see him anywhere in the halls. "Come on," Cher said, leaning up against the locker next to mine, texting. "What's taking you so long?" I kept the gum hidden in my palm and acted like I had finished my business. "I'm ready." "About time," she spat, texting as she started walking towards the cafeteria. "I've got exciting news for you." I didn't care. I had just found out exciting news of my own, and I had evidence in the form of a piece of gum that I swore I would keep forever and never chew. Chapter 7. Man, sip of my coffee real quick. "Don't you want to hear my exciting news?" Cher belted out. We were forced to sit inside because sometime during the morning the weather had changed and ominous clouds hung in the sky foretelling of future storms. "Sure," I said. It wasn't that I didn't like to talk. That wasn't the case at all. In fact, I loved to talk, but mostly just to Sam. Since he had died, I didn't know what to say and didn't feel like I had anyone I felt comfortable enough to talk to about my feelings. Neil had said this was an important part of grieving, and maybe I hadn't actually grieved Sam's death yet, but I didn't think that was the case either. When people use the term grieving, I got confused. I knew Sam was dead. It wasn't like I thought he might walk in at any moment and I would realize the whole thing had been a dream. I had heard that in movies and read it in books, but that's not how I felt. Actually, I didn't know how to explain how I felt. The feeling of mourning someone's death, let alone your own twin brother, was so surreal, you didn't even know what the process would be like until you go through it yourself. At the funeral, people said all kinds of cliched things to me like, I know how hard it must be, and I've been through it too, but they hadn't. They were liars. Other people told me it was appropriate for me to be angry at Sam, but this didn't make any sense to me at all. I understood anger, but about something entirely different. "Hello in there," Cher called as she reached across the table and knocked on my head. "Oh, sorry," I said, glancing down at my pizza as I began picking off the sausage that looked like rabbit shit. "Where did you go?" she asked, shaking her head, not waiting for my response. "So here's the deal. My big exciting news is that I decided you get to be my new best friend." I smiled and looked up at her. "Well, at least that made you happy," she said, "and you get to hang out with me tonight." Anxiety instantly filled me from head to toe. I wasn't sure that I really wanted to hang out with her. I liked Cher, but the idea of hanging out with someone alone was entirely foreign to me. I stumbled. "I'm not taking no for an answer. And if it goes well, you're going to get initiated into the fondue crew tomorrow." With mention of the word fondue, I tensed up even more. How could I explain that fondue had been our annual birthday dinner for 17 years? My heart sped up in my chest. You know in kindergarten when the teacher has you stand on your toes and reach as far as possible? And just when you think you can't go any further, she tells you to go you can't go any farther, she tells you to go even farther, and you do? This was the exact same feeling as my current level of anxiety. Just when I thought it had topped out, it kept going, and I knew I couldn't tell her why. "Well, aren't you excited? Tonight you'll come over and meet my mom, and we'll just hang out and stuff." My fingers kept reaching higher and higher and higher. As I was forced to keep reaching, my panic was broken by someone tapping on my shoulder. Turning around, I was shocked to see Pat standing in front of a posse of cloned fools in football jerseys lined up behind him. "Hey, lover boy," he called out. "Go away, Pat," Cher said. "We're not really in the mood today." "Well, Cher," he mocked, "we're not really in the mood for your string tits today, but we still have to deal with them, don't we?" I thought she would stand up and fight back, but she didn't. She just sat there, picking at her pizza, and I realized why we fit together so perfectly. We were both weak, and we were both hurt easily. "So, Danny," I was thinking, he fake lisped, "why don't you come over to my house tonight, and the guys and I can line up while you blow us one by one?" A large smile covered his face, and his friends started laughing. The thing about being made fun of is that inside you want to retaliate, to fight back. Over time, I had learned that the people who were good at making fun of me were usually good at control and power, and if I fought back, they just get tougher and meaner. Inside, the battle they were waging destroyed me. I could almost feel parts of myself shedding away as tears grew in my eyes. "What do you think, lover boy?" he asked, squeezing my shoulder. I turned back around and put my head down. Cher stood up screaming, "I swear to God, if you don't get the fuck out of here right now, I will beat your fucking ass." The cafeteria went silent. Every eye fell on our table. Pat's hand squeezed my shoulder one last time, and like a hypnotist putting me under a spell, I blacked out. When I woke up, I was drenched in sweat. At first, I didn't know where I was, but I had woken up in enough school nurse offices to know where I was by the feeling of the rubber bed sheet under me. As I lay on my back, I looked up at the white ceiling tiles and thought for a moment that their small specks resembled faraway stars, until I noticed the decaying corners of the galaxy. The room was still, only slightly disturbed by the faint chatter of two women discussing some reality show about housewives. I didn't want to get up. The room was so cool and dark, and it reminded me of my grandmother's house, where I could hear the cars going by in the road late at night. It felt perfect in that memory, and I felt safe. After a few minutes, a woman walked in and stood by me. Noticing I was awake, she put her hand on my arm and flinched at being touched again, and I flinched at being touched again by someone without invitation. "You had us all quite scared, Danny. We called your mom, and she told us that you had a tendency to faint when you get nervous." I just stared at her without saying a word. She was older and had platinum beige colored hair, which looked like a wig. On her white smock was a name badge that said, "Mrs. Todd, nurse." "Did something upset you?" she asked. I didn't say anything. I learned it was always best to keep things to myself. "Your mom was going to pick you up early, but we decided to just let you sleep until the end of the day, and then she's going to pick you up." Almost on cue, I heard the bell ring. "And that's the last bell, darling," she smiled. I pulled my legs off the bed and stood up, still slightly drowsy. I grabbed my bag and followed her out into the front room, where she handed me a small bottle of Gatorade and a package of cheese and peanut butter crackers. If you ever need to talk or anything, or if anything is bothering you, just let me know." She patted my arm again. I thanked her and walked out into the busy hallway. I'm sure it was just my imagination, but I felt like every person was looking directly at me, knowing what had just happened. I didn't go to my locker. Instead, I walked toward the front door, throwing the Gatorade and crackers into a trash can I passed on the way. Outside, the rain had stopped, but it was still dark and ominous. I walked over to the brick wall in front of the school and waited for Mom, hoping Rusty would be standing there waiting for me, but he wasn't. My phone buzzed in my pocket, and after reading the text from my mom apologizing for running 5 minutes late, I sat down on the wet curb. My phone buzzed in my pocket, and after reading this text from my mom apologizing for running 5 minutes late, I sat down on the wet curb. My butt became immediately damp, but I didn't care. I watched all of the other kids in the parking lot lighting cigarettes and driving off together. I wondered what it would be like if I were still at my old school and Sam were still alive. I wondered if we would be getting into the Jeep, the seats probably soaked because we hadn't put the top up top on that morning. I imagined myself sitting in the back as Sam's girlfriend Jess scanned stations on the radio until she found the perfect song for the ride, probably something by Britney Spears, but all of that was gone. I looked down at my watch and realized Mom was already 6 minutes late. Is your mom late too? I heard from behind me. I turned around and saw Rusty standing above me, looking down, smiling. I laughed. Yeah, she said 5 minutes, but it's already been 6. Rusty threw his bright green backpack onto the ground and sat down next to me, his leg grazing mine. Wow, 1 whole minute more. She definitely can't be trusted, he said. I laughed. He twisted and our knees melt. I didn't want to move out of fear I would lose the connection. Did you get my gum? My cheeks blushed. Yeah. Good, I was hoping you'd know it was from me. I wanted to ask him what the gum meant. I wanted to ask him if he was gay or if he had a girlfriend. It was so unfair how you couldn't just assume someone was gay and have a crush on them. First you had to find out if they were gay too, because if they weren't, then you might be setting yourself up. I was not going to be one of those guys who fell in love with straight guys. But I didn't know how to ask him any of these things. What are you doing this weekend, he asked. I don't know, I'm supposed to hang out with my friend, but I don't know. He was silent for a minute. I don't really have any friends here yet. We just moved here this summer. I just started school here too. Yeah, I know, he smirked. How did he know, I wondered. He turned, looking at me. Look, I saw what happened at lunch today, and I saw them carry you out. Are you okay? I was worried about you. It was almost too much to process. First of all, knowing he saw the whole thing was entirely too embarrassing, and that he was worried about me? We didn't even know each other. Maybe he wondered about me as much as I wondered about him. Yeah, I just fainted, I guess. I don't know why. Could it have anything to do with the girl screaming at that jock dude, he asked. I'm not trying to pry. I was just sitting a few tables away and I heard the whole thing. I didn't really know what to say. I tried to find my words, but I was lost. Just then his mom arrived and he stood up, breaking our connection. Danny, he paused, if he does that again, I'm gonna beat his fucking ass too. His hand touched my shoulder as he walked away, but this time I didn't flinch. I watched him climb into his mom's van and then he was gone. It was literally the perfect end to the worst school day I had ever had. I sat there on the wet curb oblivious to each passing minute until my mother's familiar car finally pulled in to claim me. I'm so sorry, I know I'm almost 15 minutes late, she said. I didn't even notice, I whispered as she drove away. We drove in silence for a few minutes and then she started in with the proverbial questions. Are you okay, she asked. Yeah, I said. Are you sure? Yes, I'm sure. Do you want to talk about it, she prodded. No, I said. Was someone being mean to you? I bit my bottom lip. Mom, why is it that whenever I faint, you always ask me if someone was mean to me? She grabbed a cigarette from her pack laying on the dash and lit it, rolling down the window. Well, honey, because every time you fainted, it's happened at the same time that someone is making fun of you. So we've just always assumed, who's we? Your father and I? And Sam? How do you even know what happened? You were never even there, I said accusingly. She didn't say anything for a minute. Instead, she just let her thoughts roll around in her head. I just want you to know that I've never really gotten involved because we always thought it would be best for you to deal with that stuff on your own. And Sam always assured us that he was there to take care of you. But now that he's gone, if it ever gets to be too much and you need my help, just let me know. Seriously, Mom, you've never been there one time when it's happened, so how could you possibly know? How do you even know people make fun of me? She remained silent, and then I got it. I hadn't been listening close enough. Sam. So those are chapters 6 and 7, and tomorrow we will go to chapter 8. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. I hope you guys are enjoying it. I love you, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye.